Hello, hello. It's Joy Foster, the founder of TechPixies and the host of the Sparkle and Thrive podcast. And we have a very special guest today, another one of our Quantum Leap stars. Annmarie, thank you for joining us. I am so excited about this. Let's just start by telling people about your story. Where were you at before TechPixies came into your world, and where are you now?
Oh, I can barely remember where I was before TechPixies. I had come from a year and a half of being out of work. I left work due to being just issues of stress and depression. So I was a long time off sick, and then eventually my contract ended, and it was about a year or 18 months into that season, and probably coming out of that season and kind of ready to embark back into the world. I knew I didn't want to go back into a 9-to-5 office job. I just wasn't able for it. And I was looking for something to do, some way of earning money and some way of getting back into normal life and being part of the community and being out there again. And I saw this offer on Facebook for some social media training, which I thought, oh, I could do that. I could learn a bit more about social media and maybe help other people with social media. And that's how I found TechPixies by a Facebook ad.
We found you.
Yeah. That's how you found me. Yeah.
No, I know the Facebook thing is so funny. You know, we're out there looking for people just like you. And I was so excited to find you because you have been such an incredible addition to our community.
Oh, thank you.
So I know you have a few stories of quantum leaps. So at TechPixies, we like to talk about quantum leaps, both personally and professionally. And I would love for you to talk about both or one or the other, but talk to me about the quantum leap you've had since you started TechPixies.
So I think the major thing about the quantum leap that I've experienced is that it affects me both professionally and personally. What I realized were that there are no limits. There are no limits to what I could achieve and what I could do. And this is not something that happened where I thought, oh gosh, I used to think I was a terrible person. Now I think I'm absolutely fabulous. What I feel is that out there beyond me, there are opportunities that if I pursue them, so it's not a case of wishful thinking and thinking it into being, that if I pursue them and actively work towards them, there is nothing beyond my reach. There is, the world is my oyster in that sense. And for me, it's weight loss. I've been struggling with my weight and trying to deal with my weight for the last few years. And I've always felt if I could just lose a few stone, I'd be fine. And now I feel if I pursue this, if I put the work in, I could lose all of my weight. And I've always wanted to, I love speaking. There's nothing that thrills me more than standing in front of a group of people. I was brought up to do it. I was raised singing and talking in front of large numbers of people. I could do that. I could stand on any stage and speak to any amount of people. And that is the quantum leap. So nothing in my life looks very different at the moment. Everything looks as it looked 6 weeks ago, 6 months ago. But I believe that if I pursue the things that really fuel me, the things that really excite me and thrill me, that I could actually achieve them. And I'm not jumping up and down. I'm very calm. I'm very focused, but I don't believe that anything is out of my reach. And for me,
and that's been the big shift in your mindset, because I think, we've talked before, you and I, about, kind of not really believing that the limits are off, that we are limiting ourselves. And actually, what science says is that humans are only ever tapping into about 10% of their potential at any time. So really understanding that concept. But I love also what you said about the pursuit. So, we talk at TechPixies a lot about this book that I'm crazy about, which is U Squared, by Dr. Price Pritchett. It's amazing. But just to your point about pursuing it, actually pursuing it, who do you have to be? What do you have to do? Right? What's the being and the doing in this scenario? But it says, and I love this, when you take the quantum leap, you ride the situation, you don't really control it. And it says the only way that you control it is by one, knowing where you're going, right? So knowing what you really, really want. What would I love? And that's the thing we talk about all the time in TechPixies is what would I love? And then two, continuing the pursuit. I love how you said that, continuing the pursuit, taking the action, becoming the person that does the thing that moves you forwards in that direction. And then 3, learning from your mistakes, and it's that concept that failure is for all I have learned, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we talk a lot about at TechPixies. Can you talk about, some of the learning opportunities you've had on this journey and how that's helped you move forwards?
Yeah, I thought I knew lots about social media. And I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll go and I'll learn a bit more. And I remember reading the original ad, and it was going to talk about trends. And I was like, that's what I'll do. I'll go in, find out what the trends are. And of course, I came into TechPixies and I realized that, social media is a huge part of the training. But alongside that, the journey beside that is the coaching. So there's the neuro coaching, there's the life coaching, and there is this call to believe in yourself and to champion yourself and to champion other people, to celebrate the smallest of wins. And all of those things are huge parts of being in the TechPixie family. And one of the things that I learned was a massive limiting belief that I had is, I remember clearly where I was standing when somebody said it to me. And it's somebody who loves me. It's somebody who wants the best for me. But they said to me, Annmarie, you expect too much. That's the problem. You expect too much. You expect things to happen. And I can remember my physical demeanor changing in that conversation. And I don't think I ever got it back. I don't think I ever got that, I can do this, back, until I was in the middle of a TechPixie training session. I can't remember. I think it might have been a workshop with Teresa. And I don't think it probably wasn't even one moment. It was probably a combination of things, because the conversation that you and I had about U squared and a couple of other conversations I had. And I realized, hang on a second, that's not right. That's not right. I should expect stuff. Oh my goodness, I'm a Christian. The Bible tells me that with God, all things are possible. Ask, seek, knock. What? Why did I forget that? Why did I allow myself to be told something other than that anything is possible for me if I believe that I want to do the things that are God's will, but if I pursue the things that I believe he's put into my heart to fill me with and to draw me to, and to then I can do it. I don't expect too much. I think now I don't expect enough.
Amen to that, sister. I love that.
Enough. That's been my problem. So yeah, so that's been a huge change. And I think it's having those life coaching sessions with Teresa, the Mindset Monday that we have with you on the Monday mornings. It's been a combination of a few things. So I suddenly went, hang on a second. I'm not expecting enough. And so I really feel that limiting belief was just, peeled off me through a process of building my confidence, being encouraged to build other people's confidence. The Star Pod that I'm in, the small group within the TechPixie family, we've had some amazing conversations. We don't spend a lot of time talking about social media, I'll confess that, but my goodness, the encouragement that we can give and get within our group is amazing. So that's been one thing that's been a huge change for me.
I love that. And, of course, I encourage a lot of the all the TechPixies and those who are listening to the podcast, I would highly encourage you to read The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. And there's 4 chapters in there worth meditating on, 4, 11, it was 4, 7, 11, and 14. I'm going to forget those one day because I'm not meditating on them at the moment. But one of those chapters is on gratitude. And I think it had the most profound impact on me because what it talks about is that the grateful mind expects great things, and I think that is such a powerful, thing to expect great things. What you expect, you get. And that's another adage that, really I've picked up and I don't remember who said it to me, probably one of my coaches, but it's true. And if you expect things to be a disaster, then very likely you planted the seed for the disaster. But if you expect things to go well, if you expect people to respect you and to love you, and those things do happen. And I think I think what we do is someone says something to us and that's out of alignment with who we are, and we either adapt to what they've said to us, or we take that step back and say, no, that's the way that they perceive the world. That's not the way I'm going to perceive the world. And sometimes it takes being in another group or being in a coaching session to see that that was someone else's perception of the world and not your perception. And I love that you worked through that. And I love the way that you took that angle that you took is so cool. We talk about in the 3 steps to a quantum leap in a free training on quantum leaps, we talk about activating the heart. What would you love? And activating taking action, like you said, pursuing that thing that you would love, right? It's not going to happen if you don't take daily action towards it. I mean, that's the bottom line. And we talk about in the neurocoaching side, we talk about 67 days, and on my social media at the TechPixies Instagram channel, I'm often talking about the TP 67 day challenge, just getting people in the habit of doing something for 67 days. Who do you have to be? What do you have to do in order to have this thing that you want? So important. And then the 3rd step is activate the mind, right? Work through the thoughts that are stopping you from moving forwards. And you have to do that. That is a part of the quantum leap. If you just ignore the thoughts and don't work through them and establish where they came from and rework them into new thoughts, it holds you back. So let's talk about some of let's talk about your podcast. I think this is such a great quantum leap story. So, I mean, you set up a social media business. You're now making money doing social media for other people. You weren't doing that before. That's happening. So we can talk about that. You launched a podcast. One of the things we talk about in the free training as well is something called the sunflower effect. So it's that you need to create regular content and you need to get that content out to your audience on a regular basis. And one of the great things that's trending, right, in the trends is podcasting. And you you left a review on our podcast page, and then you downloaded our podcast guide to get started on podcasting, which is the exact steps I took to get started on podcasting. And you have launched a podcast, and that has been a quantum leap. Let's talk about that.
Amazing. Well, I'd been blogging for a long time, and I've blogged about weight and spirituality and Christianity since probably 2009 when I started my very first blog. But I just felt after I came out of this period of depression and anxiety, I found writing really hard. I am a writer. I write fiction and nonfiction, but I really found writing hard. But as you can see, I don't find talking very hard. So when I heard about the podcast idea, I thought, okay, so I've got the basis of this book that I've been writing forever about weight loss. And I thought maybe I could use some of that in the podcast. So this week will be week 8. Episode 8. So we're still only getting going, but it's called Words, Wobbles and Wisdom. So I use some of my writing and I talk about wobbles in a physical sense, as in weight loss and exercise, but also wobbles in an emotional and mental health sense. And then the wisdom is, I believe in God's wisdom in the Bible. So I don't preach sermons, but sometimes you'll see I'll bring in some of that wisdom that I've learned, through my Christian life. And some wisdom that I've learned from other people about weight loss and about exercise. So I'm preparing to publish episode 8 now this week, and it's been amazing. It's been absolutely amazing. The response that I've had has been unbelievable, and it's one of those subjects where most of the response you get is private because it is quite an emotional subject. So I've had lots of private messages from people. Quite surprising. Some of the people, men who are thin are listening. I don't understand, and I'm getting messages. I've had messages from people that I know, and I'm going, why are you even listening? But yeah, it's been amazing. So I'm just about to hit 400 downloads. So that's an average about 50 a week. So I'm really happy with that. So it's been amazing. That is
a quantum leap, right? To go from not having a podcast at all to having 400 downloads, and you've only done 8 episodes. That's incredible. And it shows that you've got a story that people want to hear, that you've got your transformation is inspirational to others, and you're working through it yourself as well. And there's a lot of it you've already worked through, but there's a lot of it you're still working through.
Absolutely.
And you have this beautiful voice. I love, I mean, we went for a walk and I could have walked for 4 hours, I love listening to you, and you've got such a beautiful heart, and that just comes across. So it's no surprise to me that your podcast is going bonkers, but I do think it's incredible that you took, I mean, that's a free guide. You can go to techpixies.com/podcast right now, and you can do a review of our podcast on whatever, you listen to. I think Apple Podcasts is where the reviews are. You can leave a review. You can screenshot that review. You can send it off to us, and we will send you our guide, and you'll get going. And you literally did that. And you're not the only one. We've got several people in our community who've done that as well. It's really amazing.
Yeah. I mean, there was one of the tech pixies said to me, so who did you get to help you? And I said, no, I downloaded the Tech Pixie guide. And she said, but yours looks like you paid somebody to do it. And I was like, no, all I did, I just went through the steps that were in the Tech Pixie guide, and I designed my logo on Canva, and I just whacked it up on the internet.
And Canva is something we teach for free. It's part of our free training series. It's the very first lesson. Once you know what you love, okay, let's vision that, and let's do a vision board. Because if you don't know how you're going to use social media or which network you're going to use, that's not where we start. We start by using Canva to create a vision board. I've got one right behind me as we're talking right now. That's my current Canva vision board that I've printed out on an A4 document. It's in my office as I'm doing these interviews. I can look at it and see it. It's always there. It's a visual reminder of what I want to do in the next 3 months, the next year. And so we teach people how to create a Canva vision board. And then once they've created the Canva vision board, that's when everything else starts to happen, right? Yeah. And this is that concept that once you make the decision, this is what I want to do. I want to start a business, or I want to return to work, or I want to move forwards with this podcast or whatever. Then everything else, the unseen forces start to work in your favor. And that's where the magic is, right? And that's what you've experienced. And I just think that's so incredible. So let's talk about your social media business and what you're doing there, because I know you're also doing that. You're a very busy woman. You've got a lot of, you're trying a lot of different things as you navigate your way to being a TEDx speaker. But until you're there, you're trying out different things. And so tell us about the social media business you've set up.
So this was the reason I came to TechPixies. I wanted to learn more about social media. And my model is a no cost, low cost. So though I have, as you say, made money, it's been a very small amount, but that's been my decision, because I felt during lockdown that tech shy people and older people were very much cut off when we all went on Zoom, and our churches went on Zoom, and our conferences went on Zoom, and even our family gatherings at Christmas went on Zoom during the lockdown. And I really felt for people in my church and older people I knew who might have had a bit of technology, an iPad or a smartphone or whatever, but didn't know how to use it. So during lockdown, that's what I was doing. I was talking people through Zoom, particularly older people or people who were very tech shy. And I thought, actually, I could do this, because I don't think Zoom is going anywhere. I don't think online training, you guys in TechPixies moved on to online training, and you're not going to go back now to the face-to-face model. So I think for everybody, the online life is here to stay. So that's why I set up Sunflower Tech. I deliberately, I had all these cool, trendy names, and I thought, no, this isn't for the cool and trendy people. This is for the people who are afraid of the internet. So I called it Sunflower because I wanted it to be friendly and bright and cheerful. So it's called Sunflower Tech. And so basically I do a lot of stuff for free. I will sit with somebody and talk them through their iPhone. And then a week later, I'll talk them through it again, and I'll talk them through it again. And eventually they'll get into the Zoom call without my help. And that's what I want, is to equip and enable older people and tech shy people. But I have done some work that people have insisted, no, your time is important. And that's another thing that in TechPixies that I've learned, is to value my time, to value the training that I have and the training that I'm developing. So what I have done in certain cases and said, right, I'll send an invoice for what I would charge, and then I'll reduce it right down and put the discount into it. So if they're going to value my time and insist on paying me, then why haven't I valuing my time? So if I have had to invoice somebody, which has only happened a handful of times, I've actually put in what I would normally charge, discounted it down, so at least I'm valuing the time as much as they are. So it is starting to grow a little, and I am starting to connect with more people. And I believe that this week, one of the big Baptist denominations is sending out a big thing to all of their churches kind of in the valleys, the smaller churches that maybe don't have people who are great with technology, and just saying, listen, I'm here if you need some help. If you would love a social media presence and you don't know where to start, come and let me help you. So
well, what I love this work that you're doing, and I know it's driven from your heart, and I know you're navigating how you're doing that and what you're doing there. Now, one thing you have figured out, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think with your podcast, you figured out how to get people to buy you a coffee. Yes. So I think the sunflower tech could also benefit from buying you a coffee as well.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, the buy me a coffee thing is hilarious. Because I didn't want to monetize the podcast, certainly not at this stage. We're very early days, but I thought there are, I've heard stuff and read stuff and gone, I can't afford to send them 50 quid, but I'd love to give them a chuck on the shoulder in some way. And I spotted this, I can't even remember where I saw it, this buy me a coffee. It might have even been on Buzzsprout. It might have been on the Buzzsprout, and that's part of the TechPixies, the training for podcasts. But basically you sign up to buymeacoffee.com, and then you've got a little account with them. And then you can take the button, and the button's now on my website. It's on my link tree. It's on the podcast itself. And it's connected whenever an episode goes out from Buzzsprout. A little thing at the bottom says, if you want to support Annmarie, click here and buy her a coffee. So I've had half a dozen in the last 2 or 3 weeks, coffees bought for me. So they, buy me a coffee, take their few pence, and PayPal takes its few pence, but still. So yeah, I'm really thrilled that I tell you that was a great, I was really glad I found it, because it actually gives people an opportunity to say, that was great, go and buy yourself a coffee. Which I think is lovely, isn't it? So
absolutely. And I love, that's just it. If you don't give people the opportunity, they don't have the opportunity. And I think that, that's a huge piece of moving forwards and getting your confidence with charging people and also asking for money. It's, in that case, you're just saying, hey, if this has made your life better in some way, buy me a coffee. Yeah. And I love that.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Great.
So I love the work that you're doing, and I love, where you were and where you are now, just that there is, it was not this like incremental change. You have made this leap, and as a woman of faith, I myself as well am a woman of faith. There's this verse that I love, which is Hebrews 11:1, which my daughter purchased this for me when she saw it, because she knows how much I love this. And it says, faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. And as I'm kind of formulating the way that I believe a quantum leap works, one of the things that I've said is, you are taking action in faith that the thing that you believe to be true is true. And it's about taking daily action. It's about making that pursuit happen, but it's really about believing that the thing that you want at the end of the day is actually possible.
And the thing that you're pursuing totally aligns with your values, which is another great thing that I learned from TechPixies. Because I remember years ago in a marketing course I did, somebody said, you're never going to be able to sell a product that you don't believe in. And that stayed with me, through the years. And I thought, now really the product I'm trying to sell is myself, in a way, as a podcaster, as a speaker, which I would love to go on to be, as somebody who wants to help people with their technology. So if I don't believe in myself as the product, how on earth am I going to confidently say, I can help you with this, or I think my story could encourage you, or go on to stand on a big stage in front of thousands of people and tell my story? How can I do that if I don't believe in myself? Well, and sell the product I don't believe in,
100%, you can't. And that's so true. And I think the only thing was a shouting in my head. And when I once did this talk or I did this event, and they were asking about marketing. And I basically stood up and I said, you can't, and this is now going to be, it's going to be an explicit podcast. So, we've gone from Christianity to explicit. Yeah. I said, you can't market a shit product.
Yeah.
And, and I think the reality is you can't, and you have to believe in it. It has to be great. And, here's the thing, and this ties into the thing. If we if we beat ourselves up and if we don't believe in ourselves and if we don't think that we can deliver this thing or that we're worthy to deliver it or that we're worthy to be paid for it or whatever, that then shines itself through, which is why you can't market it, right? And the work that we do at TechPixies is not just, okay, here's how you actually do a reel, or here's how you actually do a YouTube video, or here's how you actually do a tweet. It's not about that. That's the thing you need to do, but who do you have to be in order to do that, right? You have to be someone who believes that they're worth something and that they have something to offer to this world. And, that's why we always say, you have to take off your invisibility cloak. You have to, the mission, your mission has to be greater than your fear of being visible. And that's such an important part here. And really believing in who you are and what you're capable of is so important. And that's why we do the brain priming. So brain priming is a huge part of TechPixies now. It's a part of the neuro coaching. We have a brain priming workshop. We teach people how to do this. Now, we've had a special session on brain priming and we've got you all geared up and so you're just starting that journey. Yeah. But it's about identifying the ants, the automatic negative thoughts that are coming up. It's about understanding where they came from. Like you said in the very beginning, it was this one person who said you expected too much. And now you're like, hang on, that's their perspective. And this is my perspective that I'm not expecting enough of myself, right? Now I know what's possible. And so you recognize the automatic negative thoughts, you recognize the ants, you then identify where they came from and try and view the perspective differently, right? And this is this refuting process that we go through. And then we have the reframe, which is, what is the new story I'm going to tell myself? And that reframe must be grounded in brain-based evidence. Yeah. Very important. It's not just about going, I am worthy and I'm deserving. Like I'm worthy of being paid because people are already paying me, right? Yeah, because people have already paid those invoices. I'm curious because this, and I could get this totally wrong, but sometimes, so one of the things we suggest in our training, we have a how to get your first social media client, and we go through all these steps. And one of the things we say is, if you're going to do social media for free, which a lot of people start out doing, then you do this thing. You send an invoice with the amount of work that, how much work you did, how much you would charge if you charge the rate you want to be charging, you would love to charge. And then you give them the discount and then they pay. I'm super curious if you've sent an invoice to someone with the discount, but they've still paid the full rate.
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. Well, I'm curious because that's actually a couple of times we've had people send out that invoice and people have realized, oh my gosh, how much work this person did. Yeah. The other thing too is you can send out that invoice that's fully discounted and say, this is what the value is. You pay what you feel, you're comfortable paying. That's another way of doing it when you're just getting started. But the fourth step in this mind matrix is that you record it and you listen to it. So, that's those steps and they're very important to do. So whenever I talk about brain priming, for those of you who might be listening to the podcast and you don't know what a brain prime is, that's a brain prime. It's recognizing the ants. It's then working through them to understand where they came from, refuting them, and then creating this reframe, this new way of thinking that is backed up by brain-based evidence. And then, tying that, recording it, tying it into your vision. So, I just, I'm so tempted to ask you this question.
Go on, go for it.
So tell me when I pick up the podcast with you in 10 years and I say to you, tell me about where you're at. What are you going to tell me?
Oh, in 10 years. Well, I'll be preparing for my 60th birthday in 10 years time. And I think it will be called something else. I've already had that kind of discussion with myself about that. I think Words, Wobbles and Wisdom has a season. It might be a long season, but I think the podcast will go on, will be deeper and different, but I think it will also be connected to a speaking career. That's where I see myself.
I love that. A career in speaking. This is not, I'm just going to go speak for free and just help people out. This is a career. I love it. And so it is. So we're going to hold you in that vision. I think it's so important to hold people in their visions and just watch it unfold. What a blessing. And I just want to thank you for being here today. Thank you for being a part of our community,
Love it.
for sharing your quantum leap. If you had any advice for someone who's on the fence about moving forwards with our Social Media Mastery membership, what would you say to them?
I would say, first of all, that I'm not getting paid to say this, first of all. And second of all, I would say you cannot lose. In my opinion, you cannot lose. Because as well as learning all the social media, you end up being part of a hugely supportive community of all faiths and none. But there are no barriers. There are no cultural barriers. I thought, I wonder if I'm the only Irish person in there, and will that be? There are people from all over the UK. There are people from outside of the UK, and the focus is encouragement. And so there is, as well as the learning, which is amazing. It's a complete course. There's the encouragement. There's the neuro coaching, the life coaching, and this wonderful, wonderful community. You cannot lose. As far as I'm concerned, you cannot lose. Do it. Don't stay on the fence. Go and do it. Go and join.
I love that. Well, our motto is be brave and sparkle. So our value set, and you touched on values earlier, our value set is supportive, positive, authentic relationships with women who are keen to learn and want to be empowered. Yeah. So, if that's something that might light you up, then come and check us out and more at techpixies.com. So Annmarie, thank you so much. What a blessing this was.
Thank you for letting me be on your fabulous podcast. That's amazing.
Well, and I must go now and buy you a coffee. I love that tip. That was such a top tip. So yeah, she wasn't paid to say that, but now she's going to get a coffee out of it. All right. Have a wonderful day. And thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for being with us.